It's August 31st, 2020, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count them up. Number 1, a white cop shot a black man in the back 7 times, but don't worry, it probably won't change anything. Hi everybody, welcome to... Oh, look at that. I started out the show by ripping my earbuds right out of my fucking ears. How do you like that? Welcome to the Facepalm 5. So let's get started right after I put my earbuds back in my ears. It's been that kind of week. Yeah, a little over a week ago, Jacob Blake, a 29-year-old black man from Kenosha, Wisconsin, was shot 7 times in the back by a white police officer. Blake did survive, but he is currently paralyzed. Apparently, there was a struggle between Blake and several of the police officers who arrived at the scene there. And they were on the scene because a woman had called to report that her boyfriend was on her property without permission. Now, a witness who recorded part of the incident, including the shooting, said that police wrestled with Blake and tased him while attempting to arrest him before one of the officers, whose name was Rustin Shesky, opened fire. Now, Blake... I just saw Jason in the chat say, "Oh dear, he's drunk." I swear to God, I'm not. I swear to this is just ginger ale. There's nothing even in it. Anyway, I should not be laughing during this story, so stop making me laugh during this story, you fucking assholes. Blake reportedly had a knife, and the witness who recorded the video says he heard one of the cops order him to drop the knife before Shesky opened fire. Now, I can't believe I have to say this, but apparently I do. Even if Jacob Blake was threatening the cops with that knife, which it doesn't look like he was, but even if he was, that would be no excuse for shooting him 7 times in the back. And there were also warrants out for Blake's arrest at the time of the shooting, including one on a sexual assault charge. Cops apparently were aware of that when they arrived, although it doesn't really make a difference whether they were aware of that or not, because Jacob Blake having warrants out for his arrest on serious charges doesn't justify him being shot in the back either. A few days ago, the Kenosha Police Union released its account of the events leading up to Blake's shooting. And according to that version, Blake was attempting to steal the car of the person who called the cops. When the cops arrived, Blake fought with them, got one of them in a headlock, resisted multiple shots from a taser, and had a knife in his SUV, although the police union's account doesn't say that he brandished it at the cops during the struggle. Not that that would make a difference either, because it wouldn't justify shooting the guy in the back. Nothing justifies it. The cop who shot him should be in jail waiting for his court date, not on administrative leave, which is where he is right now. So several days of civil unrest followed the Blake shooting, with police in Kenosha repeatedly clashing with protesters. A small group of protesters reportedly threw fireworks and water bottles at the cops, who responded with tear gas and rubber bullets. I love that proportionate response. On Tuesday night, a 17-year-old young man shot and killed 2 of the protesters and injured a third. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, which, not being a cop, he is not legally allowed to do. Jacob Blake's family has started a GoFundMe campaign to raise money to cover medical expenses and other costs related to his shooting. It's already raised over $2 million. And actually, that was yesterday when I wrote these notes. So I haven't checked it today, it's probably even more than that today. But they've raised a lot of money for Jacob Blake and his family. So maybe they don't need your contribution. But if you're looking for a way to help out, donating to that might be a good option. And there's also a fundraiser to help out the family of one of the people murdered on Tuesday by the aforementioned 17-year-old vigilante. And the link to both of those GoFundMes is in the description of this video. So please consider checking that out and donating to support the families of people who have been affected by this. But of course, not everyone is concerned about the victims of police violence and their families, or the protesters who were gunned down by gun-toting vigilantes. Some folks are more interested in excusing or even celebrating those vigilantes. And I just bet you can guess who one of those folks is. Number 2, Tucker Carlson, still on his Tucker Carlson bullshit. So, about that teenager who murdered those people in Kenosha, Tucker Carlson went on his Fox News show the following night and suggested that maybe the whole teenager murdering protesters deal wasn't such a bad thing. Maybe it was even kind of good. Carlson said, quote, "Are we really surprised that looting and arson accelerated to murder? How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would?" You notice how Tucker lays the blame for this teenager murdering some people at the feet of the protesters. Hey, looting and arson escalated to murder. It happens, right? Surely it's not the fault of the kid with the gun, the kid from out of town who came to town with the gun on purpose to be there with a gun in a town he wasn't from, where he knew there were protesters. Surely it's not his fault. I mean, it's the people who are out there in the street protesting yet another unjustified police shooting of a black person. What did they expect was going to happen? They brought it on themselves. And yeah, can we really blame the teenager for trying to maintain order when no one else would? So let's follow the logic of that, because I don't think Tucker really has. If we shouldn't be shocked that a teenager murdered some protesters because, hey, if no one else was maintaining order, someone had to do it, then doesn't it also follow that we shouldn't be shocked when, say, I don't know, protesters take over a police station in the aftermath of an act of police violence? Because in a country where cops benefit from qualified immunity and police who commit murder in the line of duty are hardly ever seriously punished, even if they commit the murder on video and in front of witnesses, what else are people supposed to do? Can we really be shocked when protesters respond so forcefully to the crimes of police when no one is holding those police accountable? And the protesters aren't even shooting the cops. What the hell is there to complain about? You know, this isn't the first time Tucker Carlson has said something fucked up on his show or taken the side of people who incite or commit violence. Tucker's fine with it, as long as the violence being committed is in defense of fascists or racists or people's money or property, and preferably white people's money or property, because white and green are Tucker's favorite colors, and in that order, I'm pretty sure. He's used his platform on Fox News to promote white supremacy and right-wing violence so shamelessly and frequently that he's already been the subject of multiple advertiser boycotts, and he's still hanging on. So maybe this won't make a difference, but if you're looking for something to do, Media Matters has been maintaining a list of Tucker Carlson's current advertisers and how you can contact them. I linked that page in the video description, so head on over there. Drop Tucker's leading advertisers a line. Let them know how much you'd appreciate it if they would not subsidize a racist who defends the murder of people exercising their constitutional liberties, since apparently that's something they need to be told not to do. And if you do, you know, send me a copy of what you write to the sponsor. And if I get a few, I'll read them during the post-show of the next episode. What do you say? Number 3, QAnon-supporting congressional candidate, also an anti-Semite, Islamophobe. Go figure! So, on more than one previous episode of this series, I've told you about the number of Republican congressional candidates who have endorsed or at least expressed some sympathy for the QAnon conspiracy theory, which claims that President Trump is fighting a secret war against a global pedophile ring. Because if we know one thing about Donald Trump, it's that he absolutely hates pedophiles. Pause for laugh. Anyway, one of those QAnon supporting candidates is Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is running for Congress in Georgia. Greene has a history of promoting conspiracy theories, including ones related to the 9/11 attacks and the death of Democratic staffer Seth Rich. Last week, Media Matters reported that prior to running for Congress, Greene shared a video claiming that the United Nations is using targeted immigration and refugee resettlement to transform Europe into a majority Muslim territory, which would be bad, you see, because Muslims worship a slightly different God in a slightly different way than Christians. It would just be a disaster if that were to happen. The video apparently originated on 8chan in 2015, so that's how you know it's high quality material, and has been circulating online ever since. Greene shared it in 2018, along with her comment, quote, "This is what the UN wants to do all over the world with the UN Global Migration Compact to be signed December 10 and 11 in Morocco. But I'm still banned on my Facebook pages from going live for using the term illegal invaders. Apparently, that's hate speech." Yeah, Marjorie. Apparently it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but referring to refugees fleeing war zones and immigrants looking for a better life as illegal invaders and sharing videos designed to incite fear and suspicion of them seems pretty fucking hateful. I guess I should get out more. Speaking of getting out, you see that? If you live in Georgia's 14th congressional district, you should get out and vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene on November 3rd. Her Democratic opponent is Kevin Van Osdale. He supports single-payer health care, funding social programs, increasing corporate taxes, raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour in the next 10 years, and passing tougher gun laws, among many other things. And he's losing. Why is he losing? Because this is a shitty country. But you should still vote to make it less shitty. And if you can't vote for him, please go to his website, also linked in the description, and donate to his campaign. And better yet, make sure to vote for the Democratic candidate running in your district, whoever they are, because I'll bet you they're better than the Republican who's running against them. It's not a high bar. Number 4, Republican convention offers voters optimistic, forward-looking vision of the apocalypse. Before the start of their national convention last week, the Republican Party promised to present a positive vision of the future, to make a forward-looking case, to re-elect Donald Trump, and they delivered just that. For 4 nights, a series of speakers warned us that they were positive Joe Biden would wreck the country and leave us nothing worth looking forward to. One of the most dependable features of any American presidential election is when the Republicans insist with absolute conviction that the Democratic nominee, whoever they are, is the second coming of Joseph Stalin, no matter how moderate and inoffensive that Democratic nominee may be. During the Republican convention, we were all introduced to Joe Biden, radical leftist. On the first night of the convention, Republican Senator Tim Scott even said that Biden, quote, would turn our country into a socialist utopia. Which, isn't that a good thing? If he succeeds, like, the knock on socialism is that it doesn't work, right? Supposedly, and the knock on utopia is that it's unattainable. Right? Or at least unsustainable. But if Senator Scott is saying Biden will turn the country into a socialist utopia, meaning he'll succeed in establishing an ideal society, shouldn't we let him? I mean, this is even more of a failed attempt at fear-mongering than last time around when they were saying, if Hillary Clinton wins, there'll be taco trucks on every corner. Like, oh no, please, God, not ubiquitous Mexican street food, anything but that. Besides lying about Biden being a radical leftist, he's not, though I want to stress, as I did last time, that if he governs according to his campaign agenda, Biden will be one of the most progressive presidents in history. The parade of Republicans also indulged in an extended bit of make-believe about what a great president Donald Trump has been. Coronavirus? What's that? Oh, you mean that thing from China that would have inevitably killed hundreds of thousands of people no matter what anyone did, which President Trump managed so skillfully and conscientiously with absolutely no thought whatsoever to how it affected his personal interests? Yeah, that thing. That's not such a big deal. Also, apparently anarchy reigns and there's violence and chaos in the streets and only Donald Trump can save us from it, even though Donald Trump is actually the president right now and doesn't seem to be doing much about it other than exaggerate it to cartoonish proportions and use it to scare the old white people into voting for him again. I want to talk about Trump's speech at the convention, but before we get there, we got to go here. And now it's time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, The Further Misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, the following is not a complete list. So, a week before his party's convention started, Trump apparently watched every night of the Democrats' convention. We know this because he rage tweeted his responses to Michelle Obama, quote, "Somebody please explain to Michelle Obama that Donald J. Trump would not be here in the beautiful White House if it weren't for the job done by your husband, Barack Obama." And he also rage tweeted his response to Barack Obama's speech, quote, all caps, "He spied on my campaign and got caught." During their speeches, he also repeatedly reminded everyone that Obama waited until Biden had the nomination in hand before endorsing him, as though a former president not taking sides in his party's presidential primary is something unusual rather than standard operating procedure. I mean, Obama and Biden are the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen of American politics. Does Trump really expect us to believe Obama was reluctant to endorse him? Probably. He also expects us to believe Obama had nothing to do with the economic growth Trump routinely takes credit for. He expects us to believe pretty much everything he says, I think, which would be sad if he wasn't such a malevolent asshole. He also claimed that Democrats omitted the words "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance at their convention, which A, no, they didn't, B, so what if they did? The phrase "under God" wasn't part of the pledge until the 1950s and excludes Americans who don't believe in a God. And C, the Pledge of Allegiance is creepy, authoritarian horseshit, and we should get rid of it altogether. Anyway, so there. And when it came time for Trump to deliver his big speech on the final night of the Republican convention, he gave the speech he usually gives when he mostly sticks to the teleprompter because it's a very important big boy speech, reading words that somebody else wrote in a bored, droning tone like he's the last kid to give a book report before school lets out. "The Art of War by Son T Zhu is an ancient Chinese military treatise dating from the late spring and autumn period, roughly 5th century BC. The book is composed of 13 chapters. Each one is devoted to an aspect of warfare and how it applies to military strategy and tactics. The Art of War remains the most influential strategy text in East Asian warfare and has influenced both Eastern and Western military thinking, business tactics, legal strategy, lifestyles, and beyond, and is the second best book ever written to start with the words, 'The Art of.' In conclusion, I definitely read the book. It was tremendous, and I demand an A." Trump's actual speech was full of the same lies and exaggerations and deranged distortions that we've all become accustomed to over the last 4 years. The most notable thing about it is where Trump was when he gave it. For the first time in modern history, the White House was used as the setting for an overtly political event, a campaign speech, essentially, which, according to the Office of Special Counsel, isn't technically illegal, but harshly breaks with the precedent that sitting presidents don't run their re-elections from the White House or use it as a campaign backdrop. Not only was the speech delivered from the White House, but it was delivered in front of an audience of around 1,500 people sitting close together, mostly without masks, who had apparently not been COVID tested before being admitted to the event. And appropriately, Trump barely mentioned the coronavirus pandemic during the speech. Over 180,000 people have died in the United States of COVID-19. Around 1,000 people a day die from it on a typical day. And that's become a typical day in the United States. On August 29th, which is 2 days ago, the most recent day for which I could find the number as I was writing this video, on August 29th, 1,007 people died of COVID in the United States. 1,007 people. You know how many died of COVID that same day in Germany? 1. In New Zealand? None. Not 1. But we're supposed to pat Donald Trump on his head and tell him what a great job he's doing, presiding over 1,000 deaths a day, 6 months into a pandemic that much of the world has largely emerged from. There was not a single reason to vote for him before this pandemic. But now, you can choose to live in Trumpland, or you can choose to live in the real world. 1,000 people are dying a day in the United States in both places. The difference is, if you live in Trumpland, you don't have to care, because the example gets set from the top. Well, that's it for the main part of the show, everybody. Stay tuned for the post-show in just a second, but for now, that's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, and look after each other. Hey, and we're back. Welcome to the post show, everybody. I'll just hang out with y'all in the live chat for a little while until we get sick of each other, basically. Thanks for joining me this time. And and Jason, Middle Earth was not an option. It's reality or Trumpland. It's a binary choice. You don't get to pick Middle Earth. You fucking nerd. Anyway, yes. So hi everybody. Welcome to the post show. Mr. Camerite just posted R.I.P. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Oh, I mean, yeah, that was such a shock. I heard that. I guess it was Saturday night. Was it Saturday night? That Chadwick Boseman had died, and my God, how much worse can it get? It can always get worse. It can always get worse, as I have been reminded and reminded myself quite a bit lately. But Jesus Christ. So yeah, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Friday night. Some random geek says, thank you. Secular Scholar says, I recently saw you were in a video done by Jesse Gender, co-starring with Lore Runner. Why not in the same room? While not in the same room, how did you like co-starring with him? I thought he did great. I mean, I didn't see his performance until I actually saw the video. So, I mean, we didn't do anything like together. But I thought when I saw the finished video, I thought he did terrific. So I mean, we didn't really work together, but I thought he did fine. Yeah, Dana, it can get so much worse. Yes, it can. You are 100% right about that. Some Geek says Shuri should be the new Black Panther. Yeah, I would like to see. I would like to see them do something like that. I mean it, because there was, who knows how long it would have been anyway because of COVID, kind of forcing everything to pause. But the second Black Panther movie had been on the calendar for next year, I think. right? And that, obviously that's not going to happen regardless. I don't think that's going to happen anyway. But whenever they do make the next Black Panther movie, I hope they don't recast the part, because it would be so soon. And I mean, obviously there's been such an outpouring of love and appreciation and grief in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's death. It would just, yeah, if they want to continue the series, they should do something like that. They should elevate Shuri to Black Panther status, and maybe, you know, work T'Challa's death into the movie in some way. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think they should recast him. That would be, yeah, no. 255 AD says, is there any way to edit or change my Ask Away question after I've sent it? I think there should be. If not, if you asked a question already and you want to change it and there's not a way to edit it, then just submit a second question and put a little note underneath it to me saying, you know, this is the version of the question that I want you to read on the air, and that'll be fine until we can figure something else out. Yes, and by the way, since it was brought up, starting this time for Ask Away, instead of having my patrons just leave their questions as comments on the Patreon post, I'm asking people to submit questions through a Google form that I can actually impose a character limit, because y'all are still writing me books for questions, and so now it's a 1,000 character limit. You have 1,000 characters to ask your question, and that's it. So no more essays for questions. I love you all. I love reading your stuff, but like, you know, please no more essays with like, what do you think at the end for a question. Speaking of patrons, I forgot to do this because I'm a professional and I've only been doing this for like 10 years. I want to give shout outs to some of my newest Patreon patrons, my newest $5 or more per month patrons. And let's see what their names are. I'm going to let it start over because that's in the middle of the list. See, so these folks are going to get they're going to get their name read twice. Okay, so the new patrons this time are Javier Pasos, thank you Javier. Baljit Bachu, thank you Baljit. Actuarial Lurker, thank you Actuarial Lurker, and Steph C, thank you. And Steph is actually my first annual patron, because Patreon now has the option where you can, instead of paying by the month, you can pay for a year of patronage for someone in advance. And Steph C is the first patron of mine to pledge at the $5 a month level, but she paid it all up front in one lump sum. And so that is an option too for anybody who wants to become a patron. You can become a patron of mine at whatever level you want, and if you want, you can pay it by the month, or you can choose to pay it all at once, and for a whole year. So that is just an option. And for those of you who want to help out with the YouTube channel, you can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives and become a patron for as little as $1 a month. $5 a month gets you a shout out. But $1 a month on up gets you access to the patron only feed, where you can submit questions for Ask Away ahead of time. You can vote in the polls to determine New Trek Actually topics. By the way, there was supposed to be a New Trek Actually video last week. Didn't happen, obviously, but that video will be going up on Wednesday. I am probably going to finish it tonight. It's almost done, so I'm going to finish it tonight, and it'll go up on Wednesday. And it will be on the topic of, does Star Trek actually want us to fear technology? I think it's going to be a pretty good video. So yeah. Yes, Jason knows all about professionalism. Jason knows how professional I am. We host podcasts together. He knows exactly how professional I am. Plasma Burn Death, no, you haven't upset me. I know I got your message. I got your message on Patreon. I just haven't responded. But no, we're cool. I'm not. You know, don't. I apologize. I'm just not good at getting back to people sometimes. Secular Scholar says, so are you going to watch Lore Runner videos now that you've co-starred with him? In all honesty, probably not. Just because it's. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I'll definitely watch. Probably not. But he seems like a nice guy, and he did a really, really good job in that video. 255 AD said, "Did you get my question? There's no way to check, and that's bugging me. Let me check the form. I will let you know right now in real time if I got your question. If you submitted it in the form, I probably did. But I will check. Do. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So there you go. Now you have confirmation that I received your question. Do you feel better now? Dana, there's a way to set up the form so it emails people a copy of their response. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to have to, I'm going to look into that. Thank you. Yes, Robert, we learned what Jason thinks on the Forrest Gump redux. We certainly did. We certainly did. And see, Jason and I are still friends. This is Davlin Gagefer says, who has the better Superman principles? Kirk, Picard, Sisko, Janeway, or the rest of the captains? Pike. The Discovery version of Pike is the closest to Superman in terms of character. Pike, easily. It's not even close. Second place, probably Picard. 255 AD says, do you feel bad for Kellyanne Conway's progressive daughter? On the one hand, she's extremely privileged. On the other, she's smart enough to be aware her mom is a fascist. Yeah, I don't really spend that much time thinking about it, but yes, I do feel bad for children of people like that who know better and are sort of stuck with those people as their parents. I do have sympathy. Yes, Soprano Geek, I got your question too. Secular Scholar, I have not watched Legion yet. Nobody tell Leto Lanor. Jason says, question, are you tired yet? I'm exhausted. If Trump loses, I may sleep for a month. Oh my God, buddy, I am right there with you. I am trying so hard not to think about it because I do not want to be disappointed, right? If Trump does actually win re-election, I'm going to be crushed anyway. There's no way I'm going to not be crushed by that. But I don't want to be crushed even more by building myself up with this expectation of, oh boy, Trump's going to lose, Biden's going to win. And thinking about like, oh boy, when Biden wins, it's like all the tension is just going to run out of my body. Oh, it's going to feel so good when Biden wins and I can finally relax. I don't have to be walking around like a fucking clenched fist all the time anymore. I can just have a moment of peace and of like, oh, okay. Like there's still work to do. There's still like everything is still messed up. We can't like take our hand off the wheel or anything, but we can put it on cruise control for a little bit. Just for a little bit. We can just relax. You know? Yeah, I'm probably going to, you're right. I don't know. I may sleep for a month. It's exhausting. And I hate it. But yeah, I'm trying not to think about that too much. Isaiah, yeah, if your question is in the forum, then I will get it. Seal 0626 says, how have there been no credible assassination attempts? We're too apathetic of a country, I think, is the problem. That is not an incitement to assassination, by the way. Please, nobody assassinate the president. Okay, I love this. I love this question and response here. Radical Bacon asks, if Trump loses, how will we get him out of the White House? And Dana says, in a body bag? And in a less violent in a less violent suggestion, Trevor McKenna Williams says, send in the bailiffs. So we can go with that. Davlin Gatesfair, have you seen the Batman trailer they showed at DC Fandom? What are your thoughts? I thought it was a good trailer, and the movie, I haven't seen the movie yet, so there have been great trailers for terrible movies, Man of Steel, but based on the trailer, it looks really good. Pattinson looks great in the bat suit. It's a good-looking bat suit. Jeffrey Wright looks great as Commissioner Gordon. It looks like it could be a really cool movie. It seems like the scale will be a little smaller. It seems like it won't be Batman Saves the World, which will be nice. It'll be on a smaller scale, like more of a crime story or a detective story, which I would love. So yeah, cautiously optimistic. Just got a super chat from Jeremy Landry. Says we need to run up the popular vote for all states. Thank you very much for the super chat, and I agree. I would love to see a blowout in popular vote. And I would love to see a blowout in Electoral College too, but I would love to see an absolute blowout in popular vote. 255 AD says, did you know Trump slightly jumped in the polls this weekend? Well, that's probably like the post-convention bounce. I mean, I think that's probably not unexpected. And like the other, we have to prepare ourselves for the inevitability that the race will tighten as we probably, historically speaking, we can expect that the race will tighten as we get closer to election day, right? It nearly always does. Even if Biden has this commanding lead out here now, as we get closer to election day, it will tighten, and we'll all be biting our nails and waiting for it to be over. Like that's just going to happen, I think, So we have to be prepared for that. Carl Eusebia says, here in Korea, we're having a COVID resurgence because of a church pastor protesting government health measures, and then both he and his church ended up spiking infections. What a shock. I know. Who could have predicted that? Oh, Nick, I am doing okay. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for stopping by. Duralta Trekkie says, by the way, I watched the 2 Batman animated movies with Adam West. May he rest in peace. And I have to say, William Shatner is a fantastic Two-Face. Yeah, I liked both of those a lot. I thought the first one was better than the second one. I thought the first one was really, really funny and really clever and really well done. But the second one was good too, for sure. The second one was very good. Yes, someone says we haven't seen the October Surprise yet, and also yes, I watched She-Ra when a couple days, I guess, or maybe a week or so after the last season came out. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was really, really good. Siamak says it's important to remember in the national polling that Biden will likely win because Texas is shifting blue, but likely won't flip. So if Trump wins, his popular vote loss will be great. Yeah, I mean, like if Trump wins the Electoral College but loses the popular vote by an even larger margin, I mean, it's practically speaking, that's nothing because he still gets to be president. But at least it would be maybe like a sign of hope. It will be like, oh, that's right. We're not all, like the country hasn't completely gone to shit. Just enough of it in the right places that this asshole can win another term. Dana asks, if it comes down to the wire for the election, will you resort to prayer? Well, I think if I were desperate enough for a particular outcome, even though I know that prayer would do absolutely nothing, I may resort to prayer. Yes. Even though I know up here that this isn't going to make any difference, just emotionally, just for my own, just to have the illusion of doing something, maybe, not saying I will, but maybe. Caroline Clark says, how can any sane person still believe in Trump because all of his followers are insane? I mean, I don't know. It's not like they're not insane. they're just they're not insane. They're just really terrible people. They're just really terrible people with incredibly warped priorities and massive ethical blind spots and um a huge mound of ignorance where knowledge should be. Like I don't think it's right to say that they're insane. I mean, I know you're only speaking figuratively. You're not like diagnosing them or anything, but still, it's like I don't think they're insane. I think they're just ignorant, shitty people for the most part. Opinion or Jason says, terrible choice time, Steve. Road trip across the country. Choose your navigator. MacGyver or Cisco? MacGyver, man. MacGyver. As much as I like, Cisco is awesome. Cisco is my favorite Star Trek captain. I love Ben Cisco. He's the best. Do I want to spend like however long in a van or a truck or a car with Ben? Maybe not. Road trip with MacGyver would be awesome. I would love to take a road trip with MacGyver. Sci-Fi 2285 says, why does supposedly democratic America always fall for hyper-nationalism, dudes in uniform, and fireworks? No Biden bounce from the DNC, Trump bounce from RNC. Because, as I said during the scripted portion of the show, because this is just a shitty country. This is just a shitty country filled with shitty, gullible people. Like my opinion of this country has taken such a nosedive in the last 4 years, particularly, but especially in the last several months, when I have seen, like, in the wake of the pandemic and the police shootings and the protests and Trump's utter failure to deal with any of it in a way that is remotely presidential, not to mention fucking decent and human. And I see people in my local area putting up Trump signs. Like they are deciding to increase the visibility of their support for him, despite everything that is happening, or more likely in their cases, because of everything that's happening. My opinion of this country, which hasn't been terribly high for a long time, has really, really taken a nosedive. So, I mean, why does America always fall for that stuff? Or at least why do many Americans always fall for that stuff? Because we suck. Because we're gullible, ignorant fucking dipshits. That's why. That's why. Because this is a shitty country full of shitty people. Dana, the illusion of doing something that feels like my fucking life right now. Right there with you. Right there with you. No, not really. Cardi Sebia says, why aren't we pushing to get rid of the non-democratic Electoral College? We should be. I mean, I would have no. My big problem with the Electoral College is that it's like it's a remnant of the days of slavery. I think we've talked about this before. Like the Electoral College was included as a compromise for the southern states. There's no reason for it to be there. There's really no reason why we shouldn't elect the president through a direct popular vote the way we elect every other, elected official in the country. A super chat from Corey Honkonen. Thank you very much, Corey. It says, there is so much willful ignorance among Trump supporters. It's incredibly disheartening and must be fought at every opportunity. Yeah, I agree. And thank you very much for the super chat. Radical Bacon, a shithole country. Exactly. Neil Blumengarten says, poor Jake when he was stuck with his father in the solar sail ship. Yeah, but what a great episode, though, huh? That was such a great episode. Niman Zuhau says, have you read They Called Us Enemy from George Takei? I did not know about how extreme the prejudices against Asian-looking people were during World War II. I have not read that, no, but I've heard George talk many times about his experience in the camp during World War II and the prejudice that he and his family experienced during World War II. He's spoken about that a lot, but I have not read that. No. Here's what I was. This is one I was looking for. Daryl Trekkie says, "Yeah, but with which MacGyver? Richard Dean Anderson or Lucas Till? Richard Dean Anderson, baby. Richard. I mean, like, I haven't watched much of the new MacGyver. It seems okay. Like, I watched like the first 2 episodes, and I was like, oh, okay, well, no, it's fine. But and then that's it. Like, I just didn't get into it. Lucas Till seems fine. He's a very likable actor. I'm sure he's doing fine. But Richard Dean Anderson, that's my MacGyver. That's my MacGyver. Oh, now, Jason, this is a great question. If Superman or Captain America existed, would they tolerate a Trump White House? This is, see, I mean, after seeing Cap, take the side he did in Civil War, I might say maybe Cap wouldn't. Maybe Cap would take it upon himself to do something about it. I don't know if Superman would or not. I feel like Superman might. I think Superman would see it as an unacceptable use of his power to override the result of a legitimate election. Assuming that it was a legitimate election. If we can prove that it was not a legitimate election, then it's a whole different ball of wax. But assuming that it was a legitimate election that Trump won to claim the White House, I don't know if Superman would feel as though it was his place to do something about it. But boy, I wish that he would, right? Like, I'm like, Soups, I know you have a code, right? I know that you have a code, but just this once, man. Just this once. Just a few seconds of heat vision from like a mile up. Nobody will even know it's you, man. Nobody will even know it's you. Everybody will just think like, oh, the president just dropped dead. He'll walk out onto the portico on the South Lawn, and you'll just see like just a brief flash of something will just flare up on the side of his head, and then he'll just drop like a fucking bag of rocks in a cheap, poorly tailored, loose-fitting suit. Just boom. Nobody will even know it was you, Soups. Come on, man. Do us a solid. You can carry the burden for all of us. You can do what other people can't. You're Soups. Come on, man. Please. Radical Bacon says yes, but Lex Luthor was more ethical than Trump. That is true. That is true. Okay, Deralta Trekkie. How does the Electoral College work? Who's in the Electoral? Who's in the college? And what these guys and girls have to do in order to... Okay, so basically the state... Each state political party chooses their own electors. And some parties have elections like that'll be part of the primary election process where people will run to be an elector for that party. And what happens is after the election is over and the electoral votes are apportioned according to the results of the popular vote, then in December, the electors from each state for the party of the candidate who won, actually for everybody, because there's, everybody votes, but the electors of each state come and officially cast their ballots and vote. And that is when the president is officially elected by the Electoral College. So the short answer is that the parties in the individual states choose who their electors will be that time, and then the electors vote after the popular election and officially choose the president. And then the election result is certified by Congress, and then it's official. That's how it works. Radical Bacon says, I suppose it depends on the Superman. If there's any, it's the only time when I would prefer the Henry Cavill Superman. I would prefer the Henry, although actually he's directed by Zack Snyder, so he would be a big fan of Trump because Zack Snyder is a fucking fascist. Caroline Clark says the votes are in. Trump is the loser. How long before Melania leaves the bastard? She's packing her bags election night. Data Portal says Soups can't laser Trump's hair. That's a grease fire hazard. That's funny. And I believe true. 255 AD says, have you seen that Justice League Unlimited episode about an alt universe where Lex becomes president and Superman breaks into the White House and kills him? I don't think I've seen that one. I have not seen all of Justice League Unlimited. I've seen bits of it here and there, but I have not seen every episode. So I don't think I've seen that episode, no. And even if I had, it's been a real long time. Yeah, it's been a real long time, so I might not even remember it if I had seen it or not remember it well. Caroline Clark says, will there ever be a USS Trump in the Star Trek Armada? Yeah, it'll be a garbage ship. it'll be a ship that like tows radioactive waste into a star to dispose of it, and the ship will just go right in with it. It'll just tow it directly into the fucking core of a star and explode. It'll be a disposable ship. Oh, Neil Blumengarten, kudos to whoever recommended Maggie Mae Fish's videos on Snyder. They were so great and so on the nose. I don't know if it was me who recommended it to you that you said, but I have recommended them to on Twitter several times. They are fantastic. She really, really nails what, from my perspective, what makes Zack Snyder such a piece of shit as a filmmaker. Opinionville, Jason says, question, the protests happen in Gotham. A member of Jim Gordon's squad shoots a protester. What does Batman do? This is less a question than a movie pitch. I think Batman sides with the protesters. And I think that is Batman's opportunity to reevaluate his relationship with the police and to decide that maybe he's been relative to the police, he has been on the wrong side. He's been on the right side because he fights criminals and blah, blah, blah. But that he should have been, instead of looking at the police as a potential ally, he should have been looking at the police much more critically and much more as a potential enemy. I think that's the movie right there. The Batman sides with the protesters and fights for them and protects them against the police. Sci-Fi 2285 with a super chat. Thank you very much. And it says, hang in there, Steve. Appreciate having you here as a form of therapy. Now, if only you can talk Trump into self-destructing at the end of the episode. Oh, that's... Dana, I am very, very biased in favor of Batman. I am biased in favor of many things. Isaiah Taylor says, are Ensign Sonia Gomez and Selena Gomez related? Probably. I mean, it's not at all that common of a name, right? Caroline Clark, Superman versus Q. I mean, well, it's not much of a fight. Like, I mean, Supes is great. Like, Supes is awesome. I love Superman, but like, I mean, Q can snap his fingers and do anything. So I really don't think Supes is going to put up much of a fight, but it might, depending on who's writing it, it might be a fun story. Sure. 255 AD says, one of the leaders in World War III, basically an eco-fascist. He wanted to genocide everyone from nuked zones. Would it be a good idea for Trek to do a time travel ep with that character? I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like, okay, yeah. That sounds like a great idea. I don't know. Daryl Trek, he says, I just want to have one scene in Star Trek. Newscaster, QAnon said, and then Q says, no, we didn't do that. I mean, really, aren't all Q sort of anonymous because they all have the same name? Like Q, I don't know. Is that anything? That's not anything. There's not even a joke there. Nipa House says, so Trump is a Malon? That is accurate. It would explain a lot. Davlin Gage Spheres, as Superman versus an orange Nazi creature, which is the Trump family merged together, who shall win? Well, Superman is going to win that one, of course. Super chat from Zeraxis, thank you very much. Says, Batman would dig up all the dirt on Trump and get him chucked out of office, and Superman can do the chucking. Yeah, okay. They could deputize Superman as like an officer of Congress or something. He could be like an official deputy of the Capitol Hill Police or whatever. He can be appointed sergeant at arms for the House of Representatives for one day, and he can be the guy to go in and drag Trump out by his ass. Superman versus Borg Queen. I think Superman would have a chance at that one because, I mean, how are they going to assimilate Superman? Their assimilation tubules won't be able to penetrate his skin as long as he is within the influence of a yellow sun. So I don't see how they could assimilate Superman. So I think Superman would win. I meant 245AD says, I meant because eco-fascism is relevant now. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if they would necessarily, if Star Trek wanted to do a story about that, I don't know if, I mean, yeah, they could do it as a time travel story. They could also do it as something happening in the future and just do it as an allegory. I mean, they wouldn't, necessarily have to have characters from the Star Trek show travel back to now and do the story that way. But yeah, I mean, it would be an interesting topic for Star Trek to tackle, of course. Mr. Camerite, what do you think of Batman being played by the same guy who played Edward Cullen, but on the other hand, he also played Cedric Diggory? Yes, and he also was the second lead, or technically the lead, in The Lighthouse, which is one of the great films of the last few years, and he was really good in that. And I think Pattinson is a good actor. I do. I think he's a good actor, and he's got the chin for it. And they wanted kind of a younger Batman for this one, and I think, I mean, he's not really all that young anymore, but he looks young. He has a very young sort of face, I'm going to give him a shot. I think it could be good. I think it's fine. Caroline Clark with a super chat. Thank you very much, Caroline. It says you're my favorite YouTuber by far. Thanks for the entertainment. Well, thank you, Caroline. That's really sweet. I'm glad you think so. A little further up, Jason says, question, since I have superheroes on the brain, what comic superheroes do the far left have? The Punisher? Yeah, that's a good question. Who are the far left superheroes? And Jason also says, Batmite, Mr. Mixias, Pitlick, and Q. Who wins? I would say Q wins that one. Davlin Gatesford says, you forgot Wonder Woman, guys. Her lasso of truth would be on Trump/Jabba's neck and make him explode from actually being honest. Good point. Dana V. Yeah, maybe V from V for Vendetta. He might count as a left-wing superhero. David Colby says, Bat fanboys freaking the fuck out over the idea that Robert Pattinson is an actor who can play multiple roles is fucking hilarious to me. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody freaked out about Ben Affleck as Batman, except me. I predicted correctly that he would be the best part of that movie, and I was right, because that movie was fucking dog shit. But Ben Affleck as Batman was actually okay. If the movie had been written well, he would have been great. He would have been a fine Batman, right? It's just, he was like everybody else in that movie. He was, and I'm speaking about Batman v Superman because I haven't seen Justice League. But like everybody else in that movie, he was hamstrung by the fact that it was an awful script and it was a poorly directed movie, by someone who directs like a guy who directs superhero movies like an 8-year-old smashing action figures together. Like that Zack Snyder. That Zack Snyder is a director of superhero movies. He's the kid who plays with his toys way too roughly and breaks his action figures. That's Zack Snyder as a superhero movie director. So, everybody thought Ben Affleck was going to be terrible, and it turned out they were wrong. Certain people in the fan base are saying that Robert Pattinson is going to be terrible. Judging by the trailer, he looks like he's going to do fine. If the movie sucks, it will probably not be because of him. And yes, he is an actor, and I think he's proven himself to be quite a good actor. Yeah, he was in Twilight. He's going to have to live that down for the rest of his life. Okay. He was young. He wanted the break. He wanted the money, right? Okay, I can't really blame him for that. He did the best he could with the material that he had. He's an actor. He's a good actor. Let the motherfucker play Batman. See how he does, Terrell Tricky says, and then Trump wants to say it's fake news, but when Soups throws him, it's more like, it's fake news. I love it. Swamp Thing as a left-wing superhero. Green Arrow. Green Arrow is maybe the best suggestion I've seen so far. Green Arrow as a leftist superhero, for sure. For sure. Yes. Mr. Croup says, how would you feel about a Batman Brightburn and a crossover build-up, an evil Justice League MCU? I haven't seen Brightburn yet, so I can't really speak to it with all that much confidence. But I mean, a Batman version of that might be interesting. And not everything needs to be a crossover, though. Like, not everything needs to be a franchise in a shared universe. Yeah, Jason, yes, everybody freaked out when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman. Yes, they did. Oh my God, Mr. Mom? Beetlejuice? Playing Batman? Yeah, And now, I mean, at least for people my age, I think he's still probably the favorite Batman of people who grew up on those Tim Burton movies. Who, I mean, he was the first like serious big screen Batman. I think Michael Keaton to a lot of us is still our Batman, right? Because he was great. As it turned out, he was really great. He was especially he's still maybe my favorite Bruce Wayne. Like not the way I would write Bruce Wayne at all. Like not how I see Bruce Wayne when I think about him or when I read the comics or whatever. A very different take on Bruce, but really, really interesting. Plasma Burn Death, RoboCop versus Batman. Batman wins that, and it's not even that much of a fight. Batman wins that in like 5 minutes. Radical Bacon, have fun in class. Thanks for being here. Caroline Clark says, suppose they're the same age and Leonard Nimoy Spock puts Ethan Peck Spock in a mind meld. Any ideas on the outcome? I think they just start making out. And Jason, I was thinking of the question from like the other side. Yeah, the libertarian superhero, the question. Yeah. Yeah, they're ultra tricky. I mean, it's not like the Twilight movies are dog shit. Okay? They're really, really bad. They're not like they're not like the worst movies ever made. They're not like so bad that they shouldn't. Yeah, I don't get angry at them or anything. Like if I was going to make a list of the worst movies I've ever seen, I like a top 10 list or a top 20 list. I don't know if a Twilight movie would be on that list. Like they're not good at all, but they're not like, they're not that bad. They're really bad, but they're not like, legendarily like all-time stinkers. Super chat from Zeraxis. I personally think the worst Batman we've actually had on screen is Bale Man, Bale Bat. But some of that is me not liking Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Well, I will disagree with you there because I think Christian Bale as a total package. I think Christian Bale has been the best on-screen Batman, and I think that the Dark Knight especially, and the Dark Knight Rises to a much lesser extent, but both of those movies I think have been probably the best live action big screen Batman that we're likely to get, unless the upcoming Matt Reeves Pattinson movie turns out to be really good. But in terms of live action Batman, I think Bat Bale is as good as, like, I thought The Dark Knight was the Batman movie that I never thought I would actually see. I thought it was so good. I never thought that somebody would make a Batman movie that good. And they did. Christopher Nolan did. And and again, not necessarily the movie I would have made. Like that's the great thing about being a fan of something like Batman, like a character that has been sort of reimagined and reinvented by so many different creative teams over the decades. It is not at all like the Batman story I would have told. Like my interest has always lied much more in the supporting characters. Like I love the Bat family. If I did a Batman movie, it would have Robin in it. It would have Nightwing in it. Alfred would have a major role. Batgirl would be in it. Commissioner Gordon would be in it a lot more. I mean, it would still be like a Batman centered story, but his supporting cast would be there. And it would be very much like the Bat family would be part of that story. And, whereas in Nolan's movies, he's a man alone. He's very isolated, and it works. It's fine. It's good. I liked it. I loved it actually, but it's just, it's not how I would choose to write the character because it's not what I am particularly drawn to. But that doesn't mean that it's not good. You can watch something that is not at all your personal take and still appreciate it. Davlin Gatesphere says, what about Kevin Conroy as evil Batman in Crisis? I actually loved him, but he will always be Batman. Yeah, Kevin Conroy was good. I mean, I think you're talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, like the Arrowverse crossover. I thought, I mean, it was cool just to see Kevin Conroy in that and to see him playing a live action Bruce Wayne. Like that was just really cool, just in and of itself. And he did a good job, and it was a very clever way to bring him in and to have him play a version of Batman in person. I just thought it was really cool. Yeah, I liked it a lot. 255 AD says, do you think Twilight hate is somewhat down to misogyny? Like people love piling hate onto things that teenage girls like. That's probably, I'm sure that's part of it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. I would not doubt that for a second. Zaraxa says, I agree with you there. The Bat family really adds to the formula. Personally, I always liked 90s, early 2000s Batman best, which had that as well as other Batman. Yeah, that's the era that I sort of look back on fondly as well. I started reading the Batman comics like really seriously, like regularly. I think I subscribed to Batman and Detective Comics probably around 92 or 93. I think it was after Batman Returns came out, and I was 12 years old or 13 years old, and I read them every month for years. And I also eventually subscribed to Shadow of the Bat, which I thought was fantastic, and Robin and Nightwing, when Nightwing got his own book, and Gotham Knights was such a great title. And then that all sort of changed in the early 2000s, and kind of they shifted into a different thing, and I haven't really been as into it since. But yeah, that's definitely my sort of golden era of Batman comics, the 90s and the early 2000s, and also the 70s, because I wasn't alive for that. I didn't read that going through the first time, but I've gone back, and I love the Steve Englehart, Marshall Rogers run on Detective Comics. Obviously, I love Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. Like, there's just so much good Batman stuff from the 70s, from the mid to late 70s, that is just, actually, in the early 70s too. I think Denny O'Neil wrote some stuff starting in the late 60s or early 70s, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, so much good Batman comic stuff, and very different, like very different. You know, the 70s stuff is, the stuff from the 70s and the early 80s is more serious than it was in the 60s, and it's not as whimsical and silly as it was in the Silver Age in the 50s. I guess the 60s was Silver Age too, but you know what I mean. But it wasn't as grim and dark and self-serious as it would eventually become in the 80s and the 90s. So it's the 70s is kind of a sweet spot for Batman as well, for me personally, in the comics. But yeah. Oh, some random geek says, still love your Batman fanfic. Well, thank you very much. I'm writing more. The story I'm working on now doesn't really, I don't think Batman is going to actually be in it. I'm working on, there are two stories in progress, and I don't know if Batman is going to be in either one of them, but Dick Grayson is in both, and the one that I'm really working on right now is a Dick and Superman story, and that's giving me kind of Silver Age vibes. Like the plot of it is a little goofy, which I'm kind of digging. So, Zeraxis says, have you seen any of the newer movies or series that have come out in the last few years? There's some excellent stuff that's come out. The new Harley Quinn cartoon has also been kind of neat. I hear really, really good things about the Harley Quinn show. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I hear really, really good things. I actually, just last night, I've been trying to catch up on the DC animated movies. I know Mr. Camerite asked a little bit right below that. It says, what's your favorite DC animated movie? I've been trying to catch up on the DC animated universe movies that they started doing a few years ago, where it's sort of like, it's inspired by the New 52, but it's not, it's not like a literal adaptation of that, but it's sort of their attempt to make a new animated universe where they do movies that are in the same continuity and sort of, reference each other. And I just watched, they did an animated movie of Hush, and it was all right. Like, it wasn't great. It didn't, blow me away. But it was fine. It was good. It was okay. It was good. And I was a fan of the Hush comic book series. I thought that was a really fun series. And the movie was all right. The movie was good. What my favorite DC animated movie? Nostalgically, it would probably be Mask of the Phantasm, but I also really like New Frontier. I thought the actually New Frontier might be my favorite because the New Frontier comic is one of my favorites. I loved Darwin Cook. He was a genius, and his comic New Frontier is one of my favorites. Is one of my favorite superhero comics ever, and the movie really does it justice. The animated movie of New Frontier is really good. So that might be my favorite. Oh, David Colby, fanfic high five. I'm working on a B5 fanfiction right now. Good for you. 255 AD says, how do you feel about the Socialist Rifle Association? Is left-wingers supporting the Second Amendment positive or bad? I see why people support it. I get the argument that the working class should not allow itself to be disarmed while the ruling class is allowed to gain a monopoly on violence. Like I understand that, but I will probably never be a supporter of the Second Amendment. I think everybody should be disarmed. I think there should be fewer guns in the country, period. I don't think cops should have guns nearly as often as they do. I certainly don't think they should have the level of armament that they have. Like I'm a big fan of demilitarizing the police, of disarming the police to a point. I mean, obviously there will always be situations where you're going to need a cop with a gun to show up, but not nearly. I mean, you don't want a cop with a gun just to show up anywhere at any time. Anytime somebody calls for help, that's ridiculous and leads to a bunch of fucking problems. And other countries don't have it, and it's just. But no, I'm just not. I think the proliferation of firearms is one of the major social problems in this country. So personally, even though I see the reasons behind it, even though I understand the motivation of not wanting to give up protection, for the working class, I don't think people arming themselves is the solution. I think disarming people is the solution. I think the proliferation of firearms is one of the most egregious problems in this country. So no, I don't support it personally. Dana says, Damian Wayne should never have been born. Fight me. Steve, back me up on this. Yeah, well, of course I'm going to back you up. Yes, I'm not. As we've talked about before, I mean, I'm sure Damian is a fine character, and I've heard really good things about Grant Morrison's run with Dick as Batman and Damian as Robin. A lot of people said that was a really, really good run, and I haven't read it, but I'd like to get around to it at some point. But yeah, it's like, and having said that, I'm a big fan of the Bat family, which is true. But like, I mean, how many Robins do we need? I mean, who is sitting around in the DC Comics offices going, I got an idea. I got an idea for how to revitalize the Batman series. You ready for this? You ready for this? A new Robin. And it's like, we got Dick, we got Tim, we brought fucking Jason Todd back from the dead for some reason, right? We got Spoiler, who was Robin for a little while. Right? It's like, yeah, sure, another Robin. Great idea. How'd you ever think of that? Like, it just, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm sure he's a fine character, but I'm with Dana. Like, I'm sure there was no, like, there was no creative demand to create that character. You know what I mean? Deralta Trekkie, I watched the Hush movie and was like, wasn't that a different kind of a payoff? Yeah, they changed the ending. They changed the identity of Hush from the comics. And they made, I think they made the Batman Catwoman thing a lot more central to the movie than it was in the comics. Although it was a big part in the comics too. But yeah. Some random geek says, should we disarm the military like disarming the National Guard who gets called in during protests? I just think that, well, if the National Guard is called in during, a protest like on American soil. Yes, I'm completely in favor of if not totally disarming them, at least not arming them like they're going to war, or arming them only with non-lethal weapons, which they are trained to use properly. Because we've seen police, they're using supposedly non-lethal weapons, and they're using them in the most dangerous way possible. They're shooting rubber bullets right at people, which you're not supposed to do. They're shooting the bean bags or the rock salt right at people, which you're not supposed to do. Even when they're given non-lethal means, they use them in the most dangerous way possible. It's ridiculous. 'Yeah, Carl Eusebius says people having guns is a big part of the legitimacy of cops having guns. Also, the Second Amendment specifically refers to militia, which most gun owners aren't a part of. Yeah, that's a good point. I've heard that. That's a point that people make a lot. And one of the reasons why they say, we can't disarm the police. Cops have to have guns because the people have guns. Well, maybe everybody should just not have guns. And I realize that's like waving a magic wand. I mean, I've done videos about how frustrating this issue is for me, because we have allowed it in the United States to get so fucking out of hand that there really is no single easy solution. We can suggest things, but there really is no easy way to fix it right now, because we've completely allowed it to get out of control. There's just too many fucking guns in this country, period. 255 AD says, isn't Terry McGinnis Batman's true son? I've never really watched Batman Beyond. So, I don't have a strong opinion on that. Oh, Dana, this is a good question. Which character has been treated worse by the DC writers or editors, Talia or Steph? I would say probably Steph. Yeah, I think Steph has probably been treated worse. I mean, Talia has not been done any favors. Talia has basically been, Batman's not girlfriend and Ra's al Ghul's daughter, his unappreciated daughter. They haven't done justice to Talia at all. But yes, I think Steph probably. I think Steph. Some random geek says we should also get rid of the gun industry. I agree with that. I would absolutely. Duralta Trekkie says, I have to say I like the Batman-Catwoman pairing more than the one they tried to pull between Batman and Batgirl and the Killing. Yeah, absolutely. Look, anybody who knows anything about Batman and doesn't have their head up their ass knows that it goes Batman-Catwoman and Batgirl-Nightwing. That's the way it is. Those are the major... That's how you ship them. Okay? Batman doesn't go with Batgirl. Batgirl goes with Nightwing. That's the way it is. And if you have a problem with that, you can fucking fight me. I will not budge on this 1 inch. It's Batgirl and Nightwing. Okay? I will not be moved. 255 AD says, so did you not know Terry McGinnis turns out to be Batman's biological son? No, I've never watched the show, so I don't know. Yes, Dana, forever OTP. Yes, absolutely. Forever and ever and ever. Endgame. Xeraxis says, I think at least something worth considering is that there isn't such a thing as non-lethal, since the ability to incapacitate is directly proportionate to his lethality. Yeah, you're right. There is, yes, a so-called non-lethal means could still be used in a way that is lethal. You're absolutely right. Siamox says, of all the hills to die on, Steve, Batgirl and Nightwing. Oh, Siamox, thank you so much. Because I was going to say this, and then I decided not to say it, but you have given me the perfect opportunity to say it. You say that Nightwing and Batgirl is my hill to die on? No, my friend. No, my friend. I will not be dying on this hill. But if you stand against me, you might. Jason says, how closely managed are phasers in Star Trek? Are they banned for the general population, or do they have stun weapons only? That's a great question. You don't really, I mean, doesn't it seem like phasers, like, it doesn't seem like a civilian in Star Trek in on Earth can just go grab a phaser, right? Of course, the other thing is, civilians don't seem to want phasers because they don't live in a fucked up, broken society where people associate having a deadly weapon with like a totem of their freedom, right? So, their Ultra Trekkie says, and Stephanie Brown, Batgirl can go with Damian Wayne Robin when he's older, or with Tim Drake. Yeah. I'm with Dana. I like, if we're gonna pair them off, I don't know if we necessarily have to pair everybody off, but if you're gonna pair them off, I think Steph and Tim are better than Steph and Damian. And again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, like my formative years in reading the comics, and Steph and Tim were a thing. They were sort of a will they or won't they, or like they weren't together, but you could tell that they liked each other, and then they got together eventually. And I like that's that goes back to my formative years as No, I am a fan of the animated series. This is what did some random geek say I'm not a fan of the animated series? These are not that big a fan of animated series. Animated series is not my favorite. I've said that before, but I have a huge soft spot for the animated series, and it has led to some very important things in my life. So yeah. So I am a big fan of the animated series. Raining Lands says, my husband was wondering if you were looking forward to the second season of Picard. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I am very much looking forward to it. And Dana said, if we're shipping people, if we're pairing folks off, Jason and who? Good question. Who's left? Maybe Cassandra? Maybe the Cassandra Cain Batgirl? Would her and I haven't read a lot of her though. I don't have a real good handle on her personality, so I don't know if she would be a good fit for Jason or not. And is it age appropriate? How old is Jason supposedly now? I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head. 255 AD says, do not stand before the wind, Kalis the Unforgettable, or Steve Shives talking about Batman shipping. Exactly. Don't fuck with... specifically Dick and Babs. Specifically Nightwing and Batgirl. Do not fuck with me about that, okay? Because Nightwing and Batgirl are happening, and they're going to be happy, and they're going to be together forever. And if you don't like it, you can fucking die mad about it. That's just the way it is. Okay? That's just the way it is. Okay, Dana, I don't know. I said I don't know. I have no idea. I can't think of anything. Do you have a suggestion for who Jason could be with? I don't know. I said I haven't read that much about I haven't read that much of Cass, so I don't really know who would be a good fit with who. So yeah. So I'll take your word for it that it is gross and no. Yes, Robert, this is cool. I talked about this in Dana says, how many kids do Dick and Babs have? Dick and Babs don't have any kids. It's just the two of them. Jason and Roy, that's a good idea. Yeah, anyway, Robert says CBS is putting Discovery on their terrestrial channels. Yes. We talked about this in the episode of Positively Trek I recorded over the weekend, that I think the Lower Decks episode, the Lower Decks review that I recorded with those guys went up today, and I think the main episode where we just talk about me and Star Trek and stuff, goes up later this week, and we talked about that a little bit on that show. CBS is airing the first season of Discovery like on TV because they have nothing else to show because COVID means you can't make TV, right now, at least not in the way that they used to. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Star Trek is going to be on network TV for the first time in if you count UPN as a network, which, I mean, come on, for the first time in like 15 years. But if, really, as far as like the major networks, for the first time since Classic Trek. So it's pretty cool. Francois Lacombe, do you have an opinion about Star Trek Lower Decks? Yeah, I like it. I think it's been good so far. I like it. I do like it. Siamak, I am very passionate about Dick and Babs, okay? They are very close to my heart. I am absolutely immovable on the point that Dick and Babs belong together. Jason and Alfred. Oh, that's funny. No, if you're gonna ship Alfred with somebody, it's got to be Dick, because they're like that. They're like best friends. Zeraxis says Jason Todd and Zatanna. I think that maybe works depending on the universe. Yeah, maybe. See, Jason. I mean, the post-crisis version of Jason is such a dick, though. I mean, it would be a shame to put him with anybody because he's just kind of a jerk, We're talking about Jason Todd, not Opinionville Jason. Anybody would be lucky to have Opinionville Jason. Okay. And if anybody was with Jason and didn't appreciate it, they would have me to answer to. I would be almost as passionate about that as I am about shipping Dick and Babs. Almost. Some random geek. What about Dick Grayson and Starfire? If Dick is with Batgirl, no argument for me. Who will Starfire hook up with? Not my problem. I don't care. Starfire can go back to her home planet and live there forever. I don't care. I don't care what happens to Starfire. And I don't care what happens to whatever fucking asshole Babs is dating at the time when she hooks back up with Dick. It doesn't matter. Irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Cold. He says cold. No, Jason, you're not a hill for me to die on, man. I told you, I don't die on hills. I might stay on the hill. I might decide not to move from the hill, but I don't die on hills. I don't go up on the hill to die. I go up on the hill to keep the hill. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So anyway, okay. We've been going for an hour and a half almost. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to call this to a close. So I want to pitch the Patreon one more time. It's patreon.com/Steve Shives if you want to help me out and help me continue to make YouTube videos and fun stuff like that. And Dana says, "What about Babs and Wally?" Fuck you, Wally. I love Wally, but fuck Wally. And since Jason is in the chat, I also want to remind everybody that Jason says, "Oh, Steve, I've seen you die on so many hills. Have you though? Have you? You have. But no more hill dying." Anyway, I also want to remind you that I co-host a couple of podcasts, the Let Me Listen podcast with the amazing, hilarious, awesome Jason Harding, who is Opinionville in the chat right this second. Jason and I co-host the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review show where we review classic films and decide whether or not they deserve the reputation that they have, be it good or bad. Our most recent episode is our review of Forrest Gump. You get to hear us have probably our biggest disagreement in the history of the show over Forrest Gump. That show is up right now. And also the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek themed comedy podcast that has a new episode going up on Friday. That's my favorite. I love the Ensign's Log. We love doing it, and we love all of you who listen to it and let us know about it. So listen to the Ensign's Log and Late Seating and all the other great Let Me Listen podcasts at letmelistenpodcast.com or through other various means that are linked in the description of the video. Also, don't forget the charity links in the description. Not just the GoFundMe's that I mentioned earlier for the family of Jacob Blake and also the family of one of the protesters who was killed in Kenosha, but also a Google Doc of fundraising links and charity links compiled by our good friend Some Random Geek. Who has put this all together. So if you have some extra cash and you want to help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand, that is linked in the description as well. That's it, everybody. I will be back on Friday for a brand new Ask Away where I'll spend the whole time answering your questions. That'll be a ton of fun. And that's it. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching this episode of the Facepalm 5. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.